Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hi, I'm Jesse Forrest.
And I'm Kate Toon.
And welcome to Write for Business. This is the show that teaches you how to write the right words to attract more sales, leads, and customers. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the psychology of persuasion, how other companies and marketers use it to influence you, and how you can use it to influence more of your website visitors and people who you market to.
That coming up in just a minute. But before we get stuck in, Jesse, what is your favorite headline that you've ever read of all time?
All time is a tough one. I read one, I thought it was so hilarious, it was silly. And the headline read, "Naked Housewife Almost Arrested." So just that part of the headline is going to get anyone's attention.
Nakedness.
Naked housewife almost arrested for losing 40 kilos in 12 weeks. And it was some ridiculous made-up story about the husband not recognizing his now very skinny wife, so he called the police because he thought he was being burgled by a naked woman.
Fabulous.
Fabulous indeed. So why don't we jump into the episode? As I said, this is all about the psychology of persuasion with myself, Jesse Forrest, and the lovely Kate Toon. So what is this episode about? Well, we're going to be covering a few things in this episode. I'll stop swiveling so much. The first one is this episode is really about getting people to say yes. Okay, so getting more people to say yes by using some of the principles of persuasion and psychology. And I'm also going to cover how, everyday people, small business owners, marketers, entrepreneurs, other copywriters can use these principles in their own marketing as well. So we're going to be covering 5 principles of persuasion. So social proof, authority, reciprocity, scarcity, and liking. So all of these are going to be covered in this episode in lots of details. Now, I will give credit where credit is due. So this episode, really a lot of this information you can find in this fantastic book I read a long time ago called Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion, which is by Robert Cialdini, or Cialdini, some people pronounce it. But a phenomenal book. If you want to get more insights into this, it's a great book to read. Have you read this, by the way, Kate?
Nope, I haven't, I must admit.
Yeah, it's an excellent book on psychology. Now, question that I think some people at home might be wondering, maybe you're wondering too, Kate, how much of persuasion is manipulation? What do you think? Do you think persuasion can be manipulative?
Yeah, I guess manipulation to me has slightly negative connotations. So you're trying to maybe make people do stuff that they don't want to do. Maybe persuasion is more around getting them over the line for something they kind of want to do, but they're just not sure about. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's a great definition. And, a quote I read was the difference between persuasion and manipulation is intent.
The intent of the person.
The intent of the person. So someone, let's say a police negotiator, is got a megaphone and is trying to persuade someone not to jump off the ledge. That's obviously a great intent. Whereas, let's say a used car salesman is using some, persuasive tactics to sell a bomb to a customer is not a very good intent.
Okay.
So say you could use the same, principles, but it's all about intent, right, and ethics. I also think that everyone needs to sell themselves at one time or another. If you have kids, it's, persuading them to eat their vegetables and not just junk food. Or it might be in a job interview, you're going to want to use maybe some principles of persuasion to seem like the best candidate for the position. So again, it all comes down to intent and how you intend on using it. And another good thing is that once you understand the principles of persuasion, then you can defend yourself against people trying to unethically persuade you. So
yeah, I've got a great example of this. I think when we get to scarcity, where I didn't recognize the signs and got manipulated and bought something I maybe shouldn't have bought.
Oh yes, I think we've all been there.
Yes.
So it's definitely good to know this, just to have a good understanding of how persuasion works. Social proof. So let's start with the first one. Social proof is one of my favorite principles of persuasion, and I think it's so common we don't even notice it anymore. I love this quote, again, by the author Robert Cialdini, which is usually when a lot of people are doing something, we feel like it's the right thing to do. When we're unsure of what to do, we just follow the crowd, in so many ways in our lives. So on that, I love this example. It's also from the book. So what they found was and I've tried this with some friends, it doesn't work if you do it by yourself. If you go and stand on a street corner and you look up as if there's something, unusual to look at, if you do that by yourself, you'll just look like a twat. But if you do it with 5 friends, now you have a crowd, now you have social proof. And what that does is that draws in other people to also look up at absolutely nothing, assuming there's something that they need to be seeing or looking at. I think it's hilarious. And they found it, again, do it by yourself, you just look silly. But when you have a crowd attracts a crowd.
There's a great video on that I saw on Facebook which went kind of viral, and it's about a crazy guy dancing at a festival, and he does look a bit silly, and there's a voiceover over the top, and it's, he is the leader, he is the influencer, and then the most important person is the second person who comes and joins him, because as soon as the second person joins him, he doesn't look so silly anymore.
The first follower.
First follower, and then everyone joins in, and soon everyone's dancing like an idiot.
Yes.
So it's so true, yeah.
So true, and permeates throughout a society, all these different principles. Another thing here is don't just look at the young, attractive women, but the guy in the middle. So this is also a social experiment that was done in Times Square, New York City. This guy in the middle is absolutely a nobody. He's a regular Joe. He's not known for anything, not famous at all. But he decided that he would have some of his friends with cameras follow him around, a fake reporter follow him around with a microphone. He also had some more friends pretend to be adoring, screaming fans. And he got out of a limo in Times Square and had all those people follow him and create a spectacle. Thousands of people were flocking around this guy in Times Square. People that never even seen him before were screaming, people that weren't part of his posse, and just creating a massive scene. And they started to interview some of these complete strangers who were screaming and said, "Oh, what do you like about Robert?" I don't think his name was even Robert. "What have you seen him in?" They said, "Oh, we love him in Spider-Man," and they were just making up movies. But the idea is that...
So basically that illustrates the point that people are crazy.
People are crazy, but certainly a crowd builds a crowd. And
it's funny because I saw one of your videos on YouTube, on your YouTube channel, and I can't remember, it was something about copywriting, and you were being filmed, and some random lady took a photograph of you, and she obviously thought you were like you are super famous now, but back then, so it just shows someone points a camera at you, someone else takes a photo of you.
They assume that, you're somebody if you have a camera on you.
Exactly.
So it's really funny how this can play out make people go crazy. But of course, a more everyday thing is bartenders will often, before a customer's even arrived, has lined the tip jar with a few notes or coins. So it looks like, well, lots of people are tipping. Maybe I should tip as well.
Yeah.
So very interesting. So how do we use this? All that's great for offline and it's interesting. But how do we use social proof online? How do we use it in our marketing, on our websites and landing pages? An obvious one is testimonials. So, the more other people say that we're great, the more likely that other people will believe that we're great as well. It's one thing for us to say it, it's another thing for everybody else to say it. So the more credible testimonials you can get, I think the better it's going to be. And we've covered testimonials so many times in other episodes, and certainly in another episode coming up later today that we're shooting, I'm going to be talking lots more about what makes a great testimonial. But testimonials are great. Another thing, Kate, and I know you're a big fan of blogging and you do lots of social media. What are these things and how do these help people in terms of social proof?
Yeah, so I think most websites these days have some kind of social sharing function on them. And the point that differs with these ones is they show the count. Mm-hmm. So often you'll have the buttons, but there's no count there. You just click the button and it shares. But showing the count, it can have a negative effect if you've had no shares at all.
That's
but as
true.
your shares grow, it's like people will come to the post. Generally, the social shares are either at the top or down the side. They maybe read the headline, they see how many other people have shared it, and it makes them think, this is worth reading.
Yes.
Lots of other people have shared this. It must be really, really good. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't just mean that they're going to share it, but they're probably more likely to read it as well.
Absolutely. So, Isn't that so interesting? And I know that I was on a blog the other day and one of the headings was, join our community of 300,000 subscribers. And I thought, wow, if there's that many other people subscribed to this newsletter,
it must be pretty amazing.
It must be amazing. So I should probably subscribe as well. So really interesting how this plays out online, especially with social sharing buttons. Another thing is, and again, not every business owner has worked with a lot of big name companies, but you don't necessarily have to have worked for these companies as an employee or, in a big way, it could be that you have affiliations or you're a member of some of these companies that could help you. Again, it's all about being ethical and transparent. You don't ever want to lie or stretch the truth. I have a friend who has McDonald's as one of his clients. He's an entertainer and he has their logo on his website. And when I questioned him about it, he did a kids' party at a McDonald's once. So that might be stretching the truth.
He just walked in one day.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't want to stretch the truth like that. You want to be ethical. But another way is to, list all the logos of companies you've worked for, if you can do that. And that can help build your social proof as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could also just be photos of all of your clients,
yes.
Photos of all of the testimonial givers, and that's going to show a crowd as well. All right, moving on to authority. In fact, we might move on to authority after the break. It's time for a break here at Right for Business. We'll be back in just a moment to talk to you all about authority and how to use that psychological persuasion principle to get more people to believe you and trust you. Coming up soon on this episode.
Hi, my name's Kate Toon, and this is my beautiful co-host, Jesse Forrest.
Oh, stop.
And you're watching Right for Business. Today, we're talking all about the psychology of persuasion. So Jesse's going to persuade us a little bit more.
Exactly. So we're now talking about authority. So authority is another principle of persuasion. And it really comes down to, we're more likely to believe someone or trust someone if we think they're an authority figure. It's why we respond to people in uniform more than people not in uniform, because there's proof there they're...
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.